Welcome back to the All Turtles Podcast, a show about the future of work, the future of health, and entrepreneurs building the future with tech like AI. I'm John C. Fuentes, co-founder of All Turtles. Today, I'm interviewing Shirley Wu, the Director of Health Product at 23andMe. She shares insights on how 23andMe has evolved in the past 10 years and her visions for how the company will continue to pioneer the future of health. So we're joined today by Shirley Wu, who's the Director of Health Product at 23andMe. Shirley, thanks so much for joining us.
Great to be here.
So you've been at 23andMe for, looks like something like 10 years now. And
that's right, yeah.
How have you seen it evolve through that time?
Yeah, it's been a pretty wild ride. And in a lot of ways, some things have stayed the same over these 10 years, and a lot of things have changed a lot. I think one thing that's been really incredible for me to see that's stayed the same is our mission, which is to help people access, understand, and benefit from the human genome. What's been really great is seeing that we've stayed true to this mission over the entire time that I've been here, even through some really pretty big challenges that have caused some of the other companies in this space to fold or to drastically change their strategy. So it's been really empowering and really impressive for me to see kind of the whole company and to see Anne, our CEO, really stay true to this mission, and how that's been kind of our North Star for all this time. But, we've definitely had to change some of what we do to stay true to that mission. And so we've gone from, now we're regulated as a medical device for some of the things that we do. And that's definitely changed a lot of how we do things.
Sure.
And then also on the research side, we've really seen kind of the power of, this access to information and these large data sets really start to come to fruition. So that's been really incredible to see as well.
What were some of those industry changes? Was that regulatory or something else that challenged the industry or your competitors?
Yes, there were definitely regulatory changes that happened. So back in 2006, 2007, when we first launched, there wasn't really a regulatory framework for genetic information provided to consumers. So there were a few different companies, including 23andMe, that were really setting the stage for providing this information to consumers. And after a few years of this, the FDA in particular decided that they actually did need to step in and figure out a way to regulate some of this information. And so around 2010, they started to ask more questions about this. And then in 2013, they actually required that we remove the health information from our product until we had gone through the process with them. So that's when that started. And, over the last 6 years, we've really committed ourselves to doing that, going through that process with FDA to make sure that we could maintain this direct access to the information.
Maybe you could fill the listeners in on kind of the basis for 23andMe and how consumers interact with it and what you get from it.
Yeah, for sure. So 23andMe provides consumers with access to information about their DNA, and what our DNA can say about us varies from information about our ancestral origins and where we come from to information about our health and traits. And so back in 2007 through 2013, we offered a pretty comprehensive genetics product that provided consumers with information about their ancestral origins as well as their risks and predispositions for various health conditions and traits. So in 2013, when FDA decided that they did need to see information about these tests before they could be marketed to consumers, they did require that we take down the information about health risks from the product. So there was a period of a couple years where we were selling just the ancestry-related information while we worked with the FDA to get the health information back.
Got it. Okay. I'm looking at this question. It's an interesting question. You strive to democratize DNA, so give access. Can you just explain a little more of what that means? And maybe what are some of like the fun edge use cases for that, beyond getting a report of what my genetic disposition is for, certain traits or behaviors or, potential negative health outcomes. Just what are the possibilities of opening up that data to consumers? Like what are the cool things that people can interact with because of that?
Yeah, so I think one of the really fun things about DNA is that it can mean so many different things to so many people. And we see that because our product provides such a wide variety of information, we see our customers every day being really creative in how they interpret that and how they choose to kind of incorporate that into their lives and how they understand themselves. So we hear all these amazing customer stories about the insights that they gained or ranging from kind of the fun and interesting day-to-day things that they love sharing with people to more serious things like health risks that they are now aware of and how they're being proactive about that. So that's one way, like just opening it up and seeing what people do with it, because it is fundamentally their information. And that's been really a learning experience for all of us. And, we can't see that if you don't give people that access. The other way, the thing that really it comes down to for us is that we truly believe anyone can understand and connect to and benefit from genetics and from science in general. It's kind of not limited to the DNA. And that's why we've stayed committed to this direct access concept and in making sure that that information is understandable. Once this information becomes much more widespread and familiar to people, we'll start to see this societal shift where information about your own body and your health won't feel so foreign or scary or off limits. And this can only happen if we continue to broaden access and kind of respect people's ability to handle that information. And, I'm really excited about the possibility that by democratizing genetics in this way, we'll get to a place where with genetics that we are now with things like pregnancy tests and cancer risk, where it's kind of a given that people can get this information and, can learn about their pregnancy on their own. It wasn't that long ago that pregnancy tests at home were kind of thought of as, something that women couldn't handle by themselves. So we've come a long way with that. And I think we'll get there too with genetics someday.
That's a really good analog. Now, are there dangers of like false positives or, potentially not accurate information that could, impact a person's set of decisions or behaviors based on, what they're seeing or reading about themselves?
With any kind of information or something that you're measuring, making sure that information is accurate is really important. And especially so when you're talking about health-related information. So that's definitely an important thing that we need to be, making sure there are strict standards around. And that by going through the FDA for the information that we provide, we actually have a set of requirements that we're required to adhere to, in which all of our FDA-related tests do meet. And that's something that we're proud to say we can stand behind, but isn't true for necessarily all the other genetics products out there. So it's definitely something that people need to be aware of and, maybe even demand that there are clear and transparent requirements around.
So if I were to, mail in my saliva or whatever, what's the report come back look like? Like what's the detail that's included?
So it depends on which part of the product you're looking at. So if we just kind of focus on the health side, we currently provide most of our information in the form of reports. So these are kind of pages focused on a specific disease or topic for which we've identified a set of genetic factors that influence that condition. And so if we're talking about a report for something like, let's say, inherited blood clotting disorders, then you'd get a report for that condition. And in that report, you would see your results for the specific genetic variants that we tested for that condition. So it would tell you if you have those genetic variants or not, and these are variants that predispose to that condition. And then you'd see additional information about what it means to have or not have those variants, what the particular risks might be, and some of the other factors that influence that condition and what you can do about it.
And I'm asking specifically because, health and nutrition's kind of it's a topic for me that I'm curious about, which means I see all sorts of Instagram and Facebook ads for all these mail-in, everything from testosterone to gut biome to I don't even know what, that I can mail in samples and see reports. Is 23andMe doing that kind of stuff too? Like this precision lifestyle health work? Maybe, it's a little separate from DNA, but still in the precision, medicine or health field.
Yeah, we definitely see a future where, the kinds of insights we're providing and the data we're dealing with is not just limited to genetics. Right now, genetics for many of these health conditions are pretty well established. And so we feel confident in providing the interpretations that we provide. We're definitely watching a lot of the developments in areas like the microbiome and some of the blood tests with a lot of interest. But at this time, we don't necessarily believe that all of those are, that we fully understand enough about what that data means to be able to give people kind of these established reports on that information. But there's certainly a ton of potential of, especially things like microbiome, all these things that we know affect, what diseases we get and how we feel every day, that we hope to incorporate at some point in the future once that data and interpretation is more mature. Since you mentioned the kind of diet and wellness aspects, I think one area that's super interesting for us and that we're starting to focus a lot of our R&D around is the interaction between genetics and our environment or behaviors for our risk for disease and what we can do to prevent them. So we're starting to gather more data around that. So wellness factors, what kinds of behaviors and lifestyle people are engaging in, and trying to combine that with our genetic data to see what these different interactions are between those factors. And over time, we hope to gather enough data about individuals over kind of an extended period of time or longitudinally so that we can see when someone makes this kind of change in their lifestyle, what impact did that have, and can we extrapolate that to other people?
Right. I mean, that seems like a really positive spin on. I almost wonder, like, the product that consumers are interacting with, this report, I imagine can have, and I've never been a 23andMe customer. I'm curious about it, but I imagine can just have kind of like a negative outlook, or like being presented with all these risk factors for significant diseases. Is that a design challenge for you guys to, make sure people have a positive interaction with this, that they're learning interesting information that kind of enriches and is a fun experience? Or is it more like is the tone serious and it's like, hey, here are the things that, we're showing markers for, and here's maybe some things that you should do or talk to your doctor, or, I'm curious kind of what the tone is of the product.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting question, and it's something that we think about a lot because, our product does cover kind of the whole variety of things that your DNA can tell you. And that can span from kind of the more innocuous stuff around ancestry or traits to really serious stuff like cancer risk. And we do hear from a lot of prospective customers that fear or anxiety about what they might learn is something that people are concerned about. I think the way that we think about it and have approached it is that DNA in itself isn't scary. And it's one of the reasons that I think we do provide this wide variety of information, is to kind of try and take some of that fear and anxiety out of it by showing you all the other ways that DNA can matter or be relevant. And then the other thing that we really try and emphasize is this idea of empowerment. You can't change or prevent something that you don't know about. And so we try and focus on this idea that you have control over your outcomes if you are properly informed about what those outcomes might be. And the way that we present things, and not trying to sugarcoat anything, but also just presenting it in the context of there are things you can do, and it's important for you to be engaged. And now that you can take more steps to have a good outcome. So we focus a lot on that empowerment message, and on just making sure that the entire experience isn't just about that, because you as a person are not just that one risk.
Yeah. There's a lot of subtlety to it. Like, in a way, the product has to have good bedside manner.
Yeah.
To deliver this information. Mm-hmm. This is a question I sort of have to ask, just because we talk about this on the podcast all the time. But so what's the role of AI or technologies like machine learning in kind of parsing or making use of this, I imagine, just way more increasingly available genetic data now versus, say, 10 years ago?
AI and machine learning do play a pretty big role in a lot of the things that we do. I'll highlight a few things on the kind of product side, and then also a couple things on the research side. So on the product side, we do use a lot of predictive models, and these have been developed using different machine learning techniques on the millions of research participants that we have to power a lot of our ancestry and health features. So we have this feature called ancestry composition, as well as an algorithm that we use to detect genetic relationships between people. And these both use data from a lot of different people and these different predictive methods to be able to have a model that can then take in, some new person's data and predict where their DNA might have come from, or to predict if they have a genetic relationship with someone else in the database. And then on our health and trait side, we also power a lot of our predictions there using different kinds of machine learning models. So with our type 2 diabetes report in particular, this report uses a predictive model that was trained and developed using data from over 2.5 million of our research participants, which was pretty incredible for us. So this is just the beginning, and we're hoping to really expand how we can use this information and employ potentially more sophisticated methods to provide both better predictions and better predictions for more kinds of people, because different populations may have different characteristics. So that's on the product side. On the research side, we also use additional types of modeling. For example, there is a process called imputation. The vast majority of our research participants we have their genetic information through a technology called genotyping, which captures specific places in the human genome. So currently, our genotyping technology captures about 600,000 places for each person, but the whole genome has billions of DNA letters. So we can use machine learning methods trained on previously obtained sequencing data for various folks to fill in the gaps for those people. So we can kind of infer what might be in between those different 600,000 places to get the full sequence using that data and machine learning. I can keep going. There's tons of ways.
No, yeah, I'm curious. I'm kind of stunned.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think through. Like, I almost wonder the use cases for AI and machine learning for even parsing the research and like the output and analysis. Like, how do you even juggle the library of available information on all of this genetic code, like all of the research that's been done to this point? How do you even get your, as researchers and scientists, how do you even get your heads around that in terms of what's already been discovered or not?
All the literature, all the published studies, there's so much information there. I think where we focus is on what can we discover from the data, from this genotype data and from all the data we have about our research participants through the various surveys that they answer to uncover these new relationships. And then we might, mostly through human effort, bring in insights from the literature or from other experts out there to provide more context for the discoveries that we make, so that we can better utilize those discoveries for things like therapeutic drug target discovery and things like that. So it's a mixture of using the machine learning and the AI on the data, and then our human intuition and our knowledge of the body of literature in various fields to interpret what that data is showing us.
Really cool. How do you see this playing out over the next 5 to 10 years? Like, what are the new use cases that'll emerge, or what makes you optimistic about kind of the future possibilities for 23andMe and for how the product's going to evolve?
Yeah, I think, part of what makes me excited and optimistic is seeing how AI and machine learning have already changed and improved the way that we all live every day. So from the technology that's in our cars to how we shop for things to all the assistants in our phones, we can debate about some of the other impacts of this technology, but we can't deny that the ubiquity of this is really helping to make us as humans more productive and safer and a lot of great things like that. With health and healthcare, we're really not at that point yet. We're just starting that revolution just by having kind of access to these large data sets. And so there's still a long way to go before we'll reach that same state. And so, there are a few challenges to get there. One is having the right kind of data. The things that can affect our health is vast, and we've been gathering pretty limited kinds of data so far. So I think expanding all the different kinds of data we can gather about people will help expand the potential of AI. And then access to health data has historically been pretty limited because it's considered so sensitive. And so that's definitely important for us to safeguard that information. But it is something we'll have to figure out how to appropriately manage so that we can fully leverage all that data.
Right.
And then I mentioned this longitudinal data on an individual person. I think that's another kind of data that for us to really get to the point where we have that personalized precision prevention kind of world, we'll need to have and be able to kind of compute over lots and lots and lots of data on a specific person over time.
Right.
So those are some of the things which I think, we're starting to see us go in those directions and makes me really excited for that future.
That's really cool. Well, Shirley, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Now it's time for a listener question. And this is a question that we get a lot, actually. And the question is, could you have insert name here as a guest on your podcast? Yeah.
So it turns out that a lot of our guests come because
That's right.
listeners request them, which is great. And then we reach out to those people and they're actually willing to talk to us, which is, even greater. So yes, definitely let us know if there's someone you'd like to hear interviewed on the podcast, and we will try to make it happen.
Yeah, definitely. Just send us an email. It's hello@all-turtles.com. This podcast is a production of the All Turtles Worldwide Media Empire. We recorded this episode in the world-class Donatella Studios in San Francisco, California. Thanks to Shirley Wu for joining us this episode. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for future episodes, send us an email to hello@all-turtles.com. Marie reads every message. Thanks to everyone who made this episode possible, including Jim Metzendorf for editing, Marie McCoy-Thompson for producing, Chris Plug for his audio expertise, Micah Rivera for our artwork, and Matt Ammerman for our theme music. On behalf of Jessica Collier, Phil Libin, and yours truly, John Cifuentes, and the rest of the All Turtles team, thanks for listening.